I don't know. So when I step back, I don't know if I like it. Hey everyone, welcome back to CM Fab. I'm Chris. This is my 1981 Toyota mid-mounted turbo K24 Who's a What's It truck. In this episode, we finally get our turbo mounted. A little bit of change in plan there, but it got done. Stick around to see what happens. I went ahead and made this template. I did on time lapse just because you guys saw me make the exact same thing without the coilover part. It's hard to show in there, but it now goes from the main frame rail up to this tube structure, incorporates the mount for the upper coilover and the turbo. This is still pretty crude. I don't know if it's going to be the exact shape. This part right here is kind of throwing me off. I don't like the angle of it, but we'll see once it's 3D printed and can actually slip over that bolt so I don't have to worry about clamping it in or anything. We'll see how it looks. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling. Go ahead and design these. Hopefully I learn how to work a computer and can record it, and then we'll come back when they are 3D printed. All right, so hopefully you just watched me design these in Fusion. As terrible as it probably was to watch, I managed to actually get something useful out of it. The original design that I did on the last turbo video is right here. Nothing changed there, except for I cut just a little bit of material out just because I didn't think it would be necessary. I didn't have to have anything clamped there like I did on this version. So I just put the tubing in, put the frame rail in, and then put exactly where I wanted the upper coilover mount, which it worked. This one worked well perfectly. It just looks a little weird to me. This part is like just too square, I think. I don't know. Something with this one just doesn't sit right with me, but it does fit. So I could go with that design if I wanted to, but I didn't. I changed it to this one. You can see the coilover mount's a little bit different. It's a little bit smaller. There's a little bit of change just here. And then the big change here, I goofed and plastic welded the turbo part on backwards. So the turbo would be on the outside of the frame rail near the tire, which we don't want. We don't want those two to meet. So I printed it again for a third time, and this one fits almost perfect. When I cut the mount that's on here now, this mount, when I notched it for my 1.5-inch tubing here, I knew it was going to bend a little bit just because there's not a whole lot of material on there to hold up the weight of the truck. So I accounted for that when I designed these upper coilover mounts, and I moved the hole over just a little bit. So when it's touching the frame down there, it's not really lined up here right now, and that is because I knew it was bent, basically. So that's off a little bit, but that's perfectly fine. And then it'll still put the turbo in the right spot. And so you can see what I mean a little bit better now. It is sitting perfect on the frame down there, and when the bolt hole's lined up, there's a gap between the tube and the mount. That gap will go away when the bolt is in the right spot. All right, sitting back and staring at it, I still like where the turbo is. I think the turbo, that's in the right spot. I think the coilover mount looks pretty good. I think the part that I did in the last video, though, kind of looks too big for the area right now. Maybe it's because everything else is small in here. It's all like 1.5" tubing, inch tubing for the upper control arm, and then you have this big plate steel just kind of sticking off the side of the turbo. So I think I'm going to slim that part down. I put it out there originally because I clamped it onto the coilover mount, like I said, but it's not really needed anymore. I think I can get rid of that hole where I was going to put a dimple die and cut it down smaller. Now let me know what you guys think. It'll probably be too late by then, but all right, in that last clip, I was just tacking up the turbo elbow here to the collector, and that kind of made me realize that this mount is probably not going to work. I also reached out to Instagram and got quite a few suggestions actually about hard mounting it right here. Most people said don't do it because you'll crack the manifold, which, yeah, that probably would happen, and I had planned on putting a flex joint in there to stop that from happening, as you probably saw in that last clip. And then I decided at the last second to take it out because there's just not a whole lot of room in here. So if I added that flex joint in there, there would be another 2.5 inches of pipe in here, and it would push the collector even farther back, which isn't really going to work in here because I guess you can see here, the collector is already underneath that first runner there. So if it was pushed even farther back, it'd be even harder to get in there, and that's not what I really want. So I decided I'm going to keep it simple and take some of y'all's suggestions, and I'm going to hard mount it to the motor itself instead of to... Hello, dude. Hi, what are you doing? Get out of here. I'm going to hard mount it to the motor itself and come off of this, what used to be an engine mount, and come over to the bottom of the turbo with a Maven style mid mount for the turbo, which I don't have in yet. So when it gets here, I'll show it better. But I'm going to build off of here. I'm going to see if I can capture this. The jack stand is right in my way, or the jack. And this tube here will come off of that, what used to be a motor mount, and come out to where that Maven mount will go. And then that way the turbo itself will be mounted to the engine and not to the frame. That will help with just overall simplicity, which I need to kind of get back to. I can't remember which video I was watching. It was, I think, Make It Custom up in Canada. He said he kind of does the same thing where he'll look at a problem and he'll just think about it and think about it and think about it and then come up with some convoluted solution when there was just a simple answer right in front of him that he probably should have just done from the start, which is kind of my problem on this truck. As you can see, it's snowballed. I need to just get back to doing simple things. I think mounting the turbo to the engine will be simple for multiple reasons. One, I won't have to put that flex joint in the manifold. I won't have to worry about making this mount look pretty because it won't be there. This is just for mock-up, so the turbo stays there until I get the mount I was talking about. And then 3, if for whatever reason, like changing the oil, because as you can see, there's not really a way to get to the oil, the motor has to come out, I could probably pull the whole thing forward without even having to worry about disconnecting all this stuff. I can just take the turbo off, and then pull the whole motor forward. I won't have to worry about coming around a mount out here with an exhaust manifold or whatever else might be connected to it. So hopefully it'll just all come out as one unit, but we'll see. In this video, I don't know what I'll get done. I was thinking about maybe changing the way I do videos. Instead of just trying to finish one project per video, I'll just do like a couple weeks worth of work, post a video, and then so on, and just see what I can get done in that amount of time. So I'm going to try and work on starting that side of the mount, at least get a template made and cut out of steel. That way, when the turbo side of it comes in right here, I can just finish it up and start on the manifold itself. Or if it takes forever to get here, I'll just start on the manifold. This is also why I just decided to hard mount it to the engine itself, just because you can see here how many different patterns I went through, and I didn't like any of them, except for really the one that's on there. The one that's on there I don't think looks bad, but I'm still gonna mount it to the engine so I don't have to worry about all of this. For right now, scrapping this idea and going with the tube straight to the engine. Perks of having a channel that reaches at least 100 people. Hopefully, I think it's at 99 right now. Is that most of you guys are into this kind of thing and can give me ideas, so I don't have to think as hard. All right, so I made a template off of the original engine mount, and I just happened to have this square of, I think, a quarter inch. I don't know, I'm really bad at sizes. Some thick metal, and it's just about the right size for this to fit in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting it out, and I'm gonna leave it kind of long over here, just because I don't know where that tube's gonna sit yet, but it'll probably end up getting trimmed back. All right, so I got this part of the mount done. You can see the holes lined up. There's just a hodgepodge of bolts in there right now because that's what I had laying around. I did clean up the shop, and I don't know what I did with anything. At first, I got a little bit scared, and I was about to cry and rage quit because I thought that there was no threads in these holes, as you can see there. They kind of just do what they want. But it is like an inch of space, and then the threads start. So that's why some of these are all different sizes, because I didn't know what I needed. Forgot where I was going with that. Oh, anyways, I got the mount made, and the tubing is already pre-bent. I think this was like a drive shaft loop that I was going to use on something, probably this truck. So cut it in half, and hopefully that is enough tubing there, because I do not have an inch tubing die for my bender, and I don't know how else I would do it. I guess I could maybe make it out 1.5 inches and then sleeve this in the end, because this is the size tubing that that mount requires. So hopefully that works. Hopefully that mount comes in before the weekend so I can get some work done on this. I don't want to start the manifold until I know it's solidly mounted, because this is still kind of flimsy. There is a piece of steel back here holding it, but I don't know. It wiggles around a lot. I don't like that. But I'm going to call it quits tonight. I've already been rambling. It's getting late, and I am getting tired. All right, so we got our Maven turbo mount in here. They're one of the only ones that I saw that made the mount for the smaller frame turbos. A lot of companies that I saw make them for the big 2-inch spacing holes here. Not that you guys care about that, but Maven does make one that has mount spacing for a GT 30 or 35 if you guys are in the market for one. Anyways, this should bolt up to our oil drain here and then allow us to weld on our inch tubing that we're going to use for our mount. And if you remember from 2 seconds ago, this should weld to our engine plate that we made, and then this side will weld over here, and that way the turbo will kind of be floating out in free space instead of having the frame side mount that I was going to do. And it'll weld to that plate right there, weld to this intersection of the turbo, and then I won't have to worry about mounting it out there. That should allow us to not have to worry about a flex joint or cracking a manifold or anything, because one is mounted to the frame and one is mounted to the engine. If that doesn't make sense now, hopefully it'll make sense when this is all done. I'm not sure. Hopefully it will though. Again, this is a how I do, not a how to. So if you are putting a turbo on your K-swapped mid-engine Toyota race truck with very little space, you're going to have to probably figure things out on your own, just like I did. What else is there? Oh yeah, so this tubing is not quite long enough to go from that engine mount out to our mount here. So I'm going to sleeve it and add a little bit of length on here. So this will fit inside the tube, and then I'll cut a little bit off of here to fit over that, make it nice and strong. I'll weld up the joint, and then that would put our turbo exactly where it needs to go. As you can see, the mount is all tacked in place. I got this side done pretty easily. Like I said, I had to add about ½ an inch there. It is sleeved, as you can see in there, so it is still strong. The mount's tacked on, and then I tacked it on this side, and I struggled hardcore over here, as you probably saw on the time lapse. The magnet underneath kept slipping, and then as soon as I started tacking it, the arc danced around. So I had to swap out the magnet for something else, and then struggle a little bit more, and finally got it in there where it needs to go. So what I'm going to do now is weld this whole part together and then clean up the bottom edge of the mount down here. Like I said I was going to, probably come straight down so it doesn't look like a stingray or a hammerhead shark or something. And then I want to add a gusset underneath this part that will add a little bit more strength, so when the turbo's sitting out here and shaking because of all the stuff, the road and the engine and everything else, it won't want to force that down and break the weld over here. I don't know if it's necessary, but you know what, I got some scrap metal, so I'm going to do it. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get that done and then come back after it's all welded out. Getting a little bit better at this whole welding thing. Alright, so it is fully welded. As you can see, it's still smoking. That's probably from my glove or my skin. Not really sure which one, but it is hot. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait until it cools off a little bit and then come back out here and mock everything up. Alright, so as you can see, I got the turbo put on and mounted with the new mount. The hot side is currently not on there. I'll throw that on here in a second. But you can see that it actually works pretty good. There's not a whole lot of flex or any flex in there at all. And it kind of looks okay, I guess. I think it'll take me a second to get used to it just because it's another tube in the engine bay now. But again, once the radiator and all that ducting is kind of coming up this way, I don't think you'll see it. And it might actually provide a little mounting spot for that as well. So I think it'll work out in the long run. I am still going to throw a gusset down there on the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. And then I think that'll be it for this mount. All right, so the mount is on. The turbo is mounted. The exhaust side is mounted. I got the gusset on there. I started drilling holes and then stopped because I didn't know if I really liked it. I don't even know if I really like the gusset on there. I don't know if it adds anything. The tube itself is pretty strong, so it's not gonna like, you can hear the whole car moving or the whole truck moving. So I don't think it's necessary, but we'll see. I'm gonna let it sit there and marinate for a little bit, and if I decide I like it, I'll keep going. If not, then I'll just cut the tacks and remove it. I kind of like the minimalist look of just the tube, so who knows. Like I said, I got the exhaust side on. There's still plenty of room here. That bracket that was coming off of here held it there, so I designed the whole thing around where it was, so I didn't have to worry about it moving. I think it looks pretty good in there. Yeah. All right, y'all. Like I said, I think that's going to do it for this one. We got that mount built. I'll start on the exhaust, or at least the manifold, probably in the next one, or maybe jump to something else. Like I said, I tend to bounce around. So got a lot done in this one. Kind of got our mind made up on how the turbo is going to be mounted, which has been kind of making my brain hurt for a couple weeks now. But thanks to the advice of some friends and some Instagram, we got it done. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go ahead and do that at that little truck. I ask questions there from time to time, or just kind of post what I'm working on before the videos come out. So follow me if you don't there for the kind of, I guess, behind the scenes stuff. I don't really know if it's in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. Anyways, I also started posting more shorts just because it kind of, again, gets everything I'm doing right then and there out so that people can see it and don't lose interest. I'm going to try and start posting those more often, maybe once or twice a week when I come out here. And then the more long form videos kind of every 2 or 3 weeks, depending on when I get done. I don't necessarily want to do it by project anymore because I feel like it takes forever to get one thing done. So I might just kind of do it in the style of like, oh, this is what I got done in these 2 weeks. So if you like that, leave a comment down below. If you think it should be the other way, where it's every video is a project, let me know down below in a comment. If you like the video, leave a comment, please. Do all the other YouTube things, subscribe, share it. We're past 100 people, so 100 people actually enjoy watching me work on this turd, so that's kind of cool. I'm going to stop rambling. See you on the next one. Peace. Man, if I had one more hand, that's gonna stop it. We have a little bit of a change in.